Hi guys, I'm Maria Drutska, and what we have today. The Munich Security Conference just wrapped up, and let me tell you, wow, the whole thing left people stunned. But don't get it twisted, it wasn't all bad. In fact, I think it might have opened a few eyes to some cold hard truths. The hype was real, especially with Trump hinting the day before that the Russians might actually show up and that we could see some real talks about the end war in Ukraine. Well, spoiled alert, the Russians weren't invited, but plot twist, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent did show up with something wild for President Zelensky, a draft contract for exploiting Ukraine's natural resources. And here is the kicker, it was so bad, Zelensky flat out rejected it. Want to know what went down in Munich? I've got the breakdown, and trust me, you want to stick around till the end. We'll talk Russian spies, Putin's peace concert in summer, how Ukraine could automatically join NATO, and much more. So better stay until the end. So first up, we had Trump talking about his phone call with Russian leader Putin, which really freaked people out in Kiev. Trump suggested that a peace deal could be struck with Moscow behind Ukraine's back. Then the very next day, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Ukraine's NATO membership was impossible and called the goal of returning Ukraine to its 2014 borders unrealistic. He later kind of backtracked, saying everything is on the table. Vice President J.D. Vance started his speech by expressing concern over the state of European security and hoped that together with allies, the US could broker a rational agreement between Ukraine and Russia. He also mentioned he would be willing to travel to Moscow to negotiate on Ukraine's behalf. His main concern, though, wasn't Russia or China, it was Europe's drift from core values that the US shared. He spent most of his time criticizing the US policy on combating fake news and propaganda. Vance started by saying that in the US view, there is no longer a common vision for democracy across the Atlantic. He reminded everyone how for years we were told that we were helping each other based on shared values, he said. But now he claimed European values aren't really relevant anymore because Europe's approach to tackling propaganda is, according to him, limiting free speech. But hey, you can't totally not limit free speech, right? Just let lies, disinformation, and fake news run wild. Oh, wait, that's a national security threat, isn't it? Just look at Musk and Twitter, and it's chaos, no? To back to the point, he brought up the cancellation of Romania's presidential elections due to Russian interference. You might say it was Russian meddling via social media, he argued, but if your democracy can be destroyed by a few $1,000s in ads on social media, maybe your democracy wasn't that strong to begin with. And you know what? I kind of agree. Democracy shouldn't be that fragile, but let's not forget, people often struggle with critical thinking, and not everyone has access to alternative source of information. They are highly impressionable and will believe whatever they see first. And guess what? That's exactly the kind of audience Russian propaganda targets. So yeah, maybe not the best example with Romania, considering the US probably wouldn't love it if Russia interfered in their elections either. But let's leave US politics aside today. I wasn't planning to dive into that, so let's keep going. Vance stressed that because of these concerns, he doesn't see any room for security cooperation. There can't be security if you are fighting against the beliefs of your own people, the vice president said. If you are afraid of the voice in your own country, then America won't help you and you won't give anything to America, he added. Well, but what does fighting against beliefs even mean? It's about tackling the source and roots of those beliefs, which are two separate, completely different things. Come on. Before I continue, I want to thank all of you who send coffees on Buy Me a Coffee and become Patreons to this channel. Please do so. If you want more videos on the channel, you can also help this channel by subscribing to it and like this video, because it will definitely help Ukrainian content to be seen by more people, and hopefully more people will hate Russia. I suggest you also subscribe to my Twitter X page, where I post regular updates about the situation in Ukraine, and to my Instagram, where I show the daily life in Ukraine. Then, at some point, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk pointed out that Europe urgently needs its own plan for Ukraine and European security, or European future will be decided by other global players. He added that in that case, decisions will not necessarily align with European own interests. Swedish Foreign Minister also made a point about Europe at the negotiation table. Right now, the Americans are waiting for our answer. Can we send our European troops to Ukraine? If you want an answer, then we need to be at the negotiation table. If we were really going to send soldiers, we need to be at the negotiations table. Then, Trump's special representative Kellogg clarified that he didn't mean Europe would be outside peace process. Europe just wouldn't be physically at the table, but its interests would still be considered. Kellogg also mentioned we looked at the Minsk II problem. There were a lot of people at the table, and they had no opportunity to contribute to the peace process. It didn't work. We won't repeat Minsk, he said. We need to make sure that Ukraine's security is about achieving the right goals. A ceasefire and long-term peace treaty won't be the defining success. Success will be when the first violation of the ceasefire happens and how all sides respond. So, everyone already knows that Russia will break any deal sooner or later. The question is, what happens when Russia breaks the peace? I just don't get how much longer the West can swallow this and keep tolerating Russia's expansionist policies. I was actually pleased with German Chancellor candidate Friedrich Merz, who supports giving Ukraine Taurus missiles. He reminded us that NATO decided last year that Ukraine has a future membership prospect, and Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen called on the West to ditch its red lines when it comes to Ukraine, whether it's about the economy, weapons, or anything else. Also, she shared Ukraine's position and agreed that the cheapest and easiest way to protect transatlantic countries is to be in NATO. She said, I know it's a tough road because some good big allies don't support this, but at least these good big allies should discuss with the rest of us what security guarantees we can offer Ukraine and that don't fall short of NATO membership. Because so far, we haven't heard anything about security guarantees from Europe or the United States. Zelensky also made a call for a creation of the armed forces of Europe. He said he doesn't believe in security guarantees without the US, but America won't provide security guarantees if Europe's own guarantees aren't strong enough. He urged EU countries to invest more in defense. This has been a persistent call from US President Donald Trump as well. We need to build up defense and not rely on US military forces to protect countries that haven't done their homework. So, to sum it all up in few words, a Munich Security Conference was a serious wake up call for Europe. The message from US leaders was loud and clear. Europe can't just rely on NATO support anymore, and even worse, it might not even be in the room when decisions about its own security and future are made. Europe needs to step up and take responsibility for its own security. This means serious financial investments in defense, but also the people of Europe themselves need to understand that this threat is real. And it's better if you already know how to pack a military backpack. I'm not trying to dramatize things, but you all need to realize that things won't be the same as they were before. And if you don't want your children to go through what the Ukrainian people are going through, you need to take actions. Change your mindset and start thinking about security. At the very least, for your family, for your future generations. So what do you think, guys? After this conference, do you think Europe will finally open its eyes and start strengthening its defense and not relying on NATO? Drop me in the comments. The Washington Post is reporting on the proposal that Trump sent Treasury Secretary Bessent to Kiev with, and honestly, it looks like total nonsense. One Ukrainian official told the publication that they were shocked by the scale of what the Trump administration demanded. The person compared it to the division of African colonies by Europeans in the 18th century, saying it could lead to Ukraine's resources being handed over for decades without any guarantees that investors would actually develop them. Another source pointed out that the US is aiming to control a wide range of materials, including rare metals and critical materials like lithium, graphite, and uranium. Kiev got the proposal deal from the US just 4 hours before Bessent's meeting with Zelensky on Wednesday. According to one of the sources, Zelensky only had a few minutes to review the US offer. Bessent insisted that Zelensky sign it immediately, but the document had no guarantees. According to the Ukrainian official, it was more of a memorandum of understanding governed by New York law, not a major international agreement. In the form the US brought it, this document wouldn't have had any legal power. Zelensky refused to sign, stating he needed to study it and consult with others, sources said. Ukraine could automatically become a NATO member if Russia violates the ceasefire, The Guardian reports. The article mentions that several US senators have developed a plan that ties Ukraine's NATO membership to the situation on the Russian-Ukrainian border. These discussions are happening amid concerns from European leaders about possibility being excluded from talks between the US and Russia about Ukraine's future. European diplomats emphasize the importance of providing Ukraine with reliable security guarantees and involving European countries in the peace process. The proposed plan suggests that Ukraine could automatically become a NATO member if Russia violates the ceasefire after the war ends, ensuring Ukraine's long-term security and deterring further aggression from Russia. What do you think, guys, about this? Does it smell like the Budapest Memorandum to you. Russian intelligence service have created a new department to fight the West. The new unit, called the Department of Special Tasks, was created in Russia in 2023 in response to Western support for Ukraine, writes the Wall Street Journal. This department is tasked with conducting covert operations against the West, according to the source in the paper. The department is behind several attacks on the West, including planned assassination of the CEO of the German arms manufacturer Rheinmetall, Armin Papperger, and fires in DHL logistics centers. The department is based at the GRU headquarters and has taken over some of the FSB's function, for example, of the GRU unit responsible for the poisoning of Sergei Skripal in the UK in 2018. According to a source in Western intelligence, the department has at least three main tasks: assassinations, sabotage abroad, infiltrating Western companies and universities, and recruiting foreign agents. The department recruits agents from Ukraine, developing countries, and even countries considered to friendly to Russia, like Serbia. The department pays special attention to Germany, seeing it as a weak link in NATO due to its reliance on Russian energy, growing concerns about nuclear escalation, and some politicians and voters sympathizers for Russia. Activity in the department peaked in the summer of 2014, but recently it has declined, sources told the paper. The decline in operations may also be related to Russia trying to create space for negotiations with the new US administration. According to the source, the department operates under general orders from Vladimir Putin, but its leaders may not seek approval for specific operations. After the fires in DHL warehouse in 2024, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan called Putin's assistant Yuri Ushakov and CIA Director William Burns called Foreign Intelligence Director Sergei Narishkin and Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu. The paper reports. According to sources, Shoigu and Ushakov denied knowing about the incidents with the packages. Well, who in their right mind would believe anything the Russians say, right? And here is the cherry on the top. Moscow is already preparing to hold a concert on Red Square in August to celebrate the peaceful end of the war in Ukraine. This was confirmed by Italian singer Albano, who received an invitation from his Russian impresario, who organized 4 of his performances in front of President Vladimir Putin to take part in the concert this summer. He told me to be ready by the end of August or early September because we will be organizing a peace concert, Albano confirmed. The singer is confident his impresario is right because he has never made mistakes in our working relationship, and this time will be no different, he said. The peace concert will take place on Red Square, and these are great news, concluded the performer. Honestly, I've never heard of this singer, but still, it's kind of weird. Would the Kremlin really risk sending out concert invitations so early when there are only the beginnings of negotiations? And judging by the drone strike on Chernobyl's sarcophagus, this doesn't look like a sign of readiness for peace. It's probably just a PR stunt from this impresario, trying to get some hype by using Putin and Albano's connections. But the news is already spreading, and people are already talking about Putin announcing a victory to his people. But There is no smoke without fire. That's it for today. I want to thank all of you for supporting Ukraine, watching Ukrainian content. Please like this video, and if you really liked it and you want more videos, you can support the channel's development on Patreon or buy me a coffee. The empire will fall. See you soon, and Slava Ukraini!